he became Jesus Christ to sacrifice himself to himself?
Okay, good question. No, Jesus didn't sacrifice himself to himself. Instead, Jesus Christ absorbed the hit, absorbed the penalty that we deserve for our wrongdoing. He didn't sacrifice himself to himself. He sacrificed himself for you and me.
He sacrificed himself for us, but towards God, which is Jesus Christ, the body.
Okay. Because God is just, evil has to be punished. Either I'm going to pay the penalty for the evil that I have freely chosen to do, or else I'm going to accept Christ's payment of the penalty for what I've done wrong.
So basically, you can get away with anything if you ask for forgiveness.
Okay, good question. Can I get away with anything as long as I ask for forgiveness? All right, smack. I'm sorry, please forgive me for smacking you. Yes, Cliff, I forgive you. Thank you so much, smack. You don't have to have a PhD in psychology to know that I'm a total hypocrite. When I say, I'm sorry for smacking you, what that means is, I did wrong, I want to turn away from that wrong, treat you a different way. Would you forgive me? Meaning by that, would you absorb the hurt of my smack and not smack me back? Instead, reconcile.
Well, I just don't see, because like there's so many people that go and ask for forgiveness and believe themselves to be holy and better than other people, yet continue to do these sins.
Great point. Okay, now you've got to read the Gospels. Because it's exact. All right, then you know what's the sin that Christ attacked most harshly. In the Gospels, what sin does Christ attack most harshly?
Tell me, you're the expert.
No, you guys know. Pharisees, right? Pharisees, the religious hypocrites. Christ attacked the self-righteousness that you've articulated so clearly and well, and said, watch out. It is that self-righteousness, that is religious pride, that blinds you to your need of God. Self-righteousness is, guess what, guys? I'm better than all of you. Therefore, I'm going to heaven, and you suckers are going to hell. Why? Because I'm better than you. What a self-righteous, arrogant twit I am if I think that. I'm a sinner. I'm a rebel against God. So are these guys. That's why we all need Jesus Christ, because we've all done wrong.
Okay, my question, you were bringing up how you don't like the idea of people creating their own gods.
Yes.
Then why are there so many religions? Or
Good.
did everyone else create those gods? Then why is yours true?
Okay, good. You've got to study Muhammad and ask yourself, does the evidence point to him being reliable?
You know, they look at yours the exact same way and look at it just as ridiculous.
So what?
So why does that make yours any more true? You don't believe in any of those other religions, just as they don't believe in yours, seeing it as equally ridiculous as you do them.
So what? You're in a university. You're in a university, sir. When you take the exam, you either answer correctly or incorrectly. And when you answer incorrectly, the professor marks wrong. Wrong.
You're admitting that you could be incorrect with your beliefs.
Absolutely, I could be incorrect. That's an option for all of us. I could be wrong. Maybe Jesus Christ was a fraud. That's why you'd be an idiot to believe in Jesus because of me. You'd be very wise to put your faith in Jesus because you read the Gospels, see that the evidence is Jesus was not a fraud. The evidence is he was totally credible.
What proves that the Bible is correct other than saying, well, it says so in the Bible? That's like saying you read a book about Mr. Tickles living in England, and so that proves that Mr. Tickles lives in England.
Great point. The simple answer to your question is, what tests do you use to determine whether an historical document is reliable or not? What tests do you use to verify it?
Resources. You get the secondhand resources, direct resources.
Good.
People that were there.
Good. Exactly. And so we've got Matthew, Mark, first primary resource, Luke, secondary resource, John, primary.
Not tell that they are telling the truth. There are so many inconsistencies in the Bible, and you cannot
give me one.
You cannot prove that those people are not just writing those things down to try and get people to act the way that they want them to act.
Okay, but the question still remains, did Jesus live a certain way? Did he teach certain teachings? Did he die on a cross? And did he rise from the dead? And if he lived a perfect life, if he taught amazing ethical teachings, if he died a death on a cross, loving and forgiving his enemies, and then if he rose from the dead, the evidence is he's reliable. Regardless of what I believe, regardless of what you believe.
How many people were actually there witnessing that actually wrote in the Bible?
Matthew, Mark, John, Peter, James observed Christ die, observed Christ risen from the dead. They wrote what they saw. Luke was a second hand, Gentile doctor. He talked closely.
Your sources are from the same document. They're
No,
saying,
sir.
what I'm saying is true because I saw it, and so you must believe me because I'm saying it's true. It could easily be a lie.
Okay, so how do you determine whether a document that claims to be historical is a lie or not? How do you determine that?
There has to be evidence.
Good. What's the evidence you're looking for?
Something outside of the freaking Bible.
Well, sir, the Bible is a compilation of different letters. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are 4 different letters written. 1st, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians are different letters. The New Testament is a compilation of 27 different letters.
Why is the Old Testament so different from the New Testament?
Well, how is the Old Testament so different from the New Testament? How do you interpret? Literally. You do 2 things, at least. You respect literary style. If it's a poem, you read it as a poem. If it's history, you read it as history. If it's biology, you read it as science. If it's mythology, you read it as mythology. You respect literary genre, and then secondly, you read in context. You don't rip one line out of Othello and say, that's Shakespeare's worldview. You read the whole thing through, and then you interpret by respecting context. I hope that's what you guys do, otherwise you'll flunk out of this place.
So what about that part in the Bible that says if a woman is not a virgin when she is to be married, she is to be executed? Do you take that literally?
First of all, Leviticus is written for a theocracy, the nation of Israel. And very, very clearly, we do not live in a theocracy. We live in a democracy. Clearly in the New Testament, when men bring a woman caught in the act of adultery to Christ, they're saying stone her. He says, the one among you who's never committed this sin. In other words, guys, the one among you who's never had a desire to commit this sin, you go ahead and you throw the first stone.
And why does it say to do that in the Bible?
Because that law was for a theocracy, the nation of Israel.
So you don't think, so if we're taking those kinds of laws and rules, why should we be applying everything from that to here and now if you don't agree with some of those things? You say that they're built for a different time, then why aren't other parts of the Bible not built for this time as well?
Very simple. Because the Bible says that that was for a particular time. The Bible does not say the 10 Commandments were for a particular time.
From, the year 200 to year 500, then no more?
No, it doesn't say that. But it clearly points out that the Levitical laws were for the Jewish people living in a theocracy.
Well, that's pretty racist. And
okay.
what I'm hearing.
All right, then if that's the way you would define racism,
well, it's
I would totally have to
certain
disagree
rules
with
to a
you.
certain race.
I don't have the faintest idea why you would conclude that's racist. It's
Because
not
it's
racist
only
if a group of
applicable
people
to a
say
certain race.
these laws apply to us only. It's not racist.
So if I say, since he's black, he can't run his own business, that's not racist.
No, that
It's
is
just a rule.
racist.
Then why
But
is
if
that
you say to him, according to my laws, I am not allowed to have sex outside of marriage. If you have sex outside of marriage, that's your decision. But according to my laws, I'm not allowed to. That's not being racist.
Then why would you try and enforce those rules onto someone else and make them believe your own rules? Why can't you just live and let be.
Well, I can promise you, it is the Bible that is the basis for American democracy and freedom and separation of church and state. You study Islam in Muslim countries, you do not have separation of religion and state.
Where did it ever mention God in the Constitution?
Pardon?
Where did it ever mention God in the Constitution? We were not built as a Christian nation.
I didn't say we were
Under
built as a
God.
Christian nation.
You
I'm
said
saying
it was the basis for our democracy.
no, I didn't. I said God, not Christianity. Thomas Jefferson was not a Christian. He was a deist.
George Washington was.
So, there are a lot of deists who believed in God, who were founders of this country, along with a lot of Christians. And they made sure, which is a biblical point, that you don't want to take religion and wed it to government. We want to get away from that. And I think that's very wise. I'm very grateful for religious freedom. When you read the Gospels, you'll notice Jesus never manipulated or coerced anybody to follow him. Jesus instead taught we respect each other because all human beings are created in the image of God.